All right, so here's a quote that I'm going to read real quick. It's by a brother named R.A. Schwaller de Lubeck. Some of y'all might be familiar with him. He has a book called Symbol and the Symbolic. And like most of his books, it's small, but it's dense. It's one of those books like reading one page might be like reading 20 pages in another book. And it might take you that long, as if you were reading 20 pages. You have to sometimes reread his statements. And read, not because he's not clear on what he's saying, but because what he's saying is so dense and so heavy and so deep. So like, check this quote out. He says, "We stand before a strong box containing the greatest wealth concerning the history of humanity. We have not been able to open it." He's speaking on behalf of him and his European brothers. He said, "Because we have insisted on using the rationalist key rather than that which the makers of the jewel case used." That's very important there. The symbol and the symbolic, that's the key. He says that the symbol is a sign that one must learn to read, and the symbolic is a form of writing whose laws one must know. They have nothing in common with the grammatical construction of our languages. This is a very, very profound statement here, good brothers. Especially the point there where he says that we're trying to use the rationalist key to unlock a box, a jewel case, that was not created using rational thought. It was created using something that we come to know now as dual hemispheric functioning. Rational thought, logic, that's all left brain stuff, right? And so we do our memory work. We're storing information and we're able to repeat it. We're able to recite it. We're able to regurgitate it on command. I know my home lodge is St. John's number 3 in Cincinnati. And when the first time going to lodge after being raised, I was just blown away when one of our elders, 80, 90-something years old, stood up and he just started, I was like, oh my God, this is intense. An elder got this stuff at the drop of a dime. You know, so that's a very profound skill that we have. And what that has done is it's given us, it has helped us to archive all of this information and all this data. But when do we get the opportunity to go back and begin to decipher all this information and all this data? When does that happen? When does that occur? Every now and then we might get on some like social media debate or something that kind of forces us into or inspires us to go deeper with our thought processes. Or maybe sometimes we're sitting around in cipher and building with each other and happen to go deeper. But is it ever really consistent in an ongoing thing where we go back into our ritual and really start to unlock these keys and see them differently than maybe we saw them before? Because that's what we're supposed to do, right? When it goes from here to here and then to here, that's what we're supposed to do. Every one of these steps is supposed to be a new us advancing. And then not to talk about when we start, branching, it's supposed to be something altogether different. It was supposed to be broadening. But I maintain, again, that we got the art, y'all, and maybe not quite the science just yet. Symbolism. This is nobody's first time seeing the FedEx logo, true? Now, it might be some of our first time seeing the arrow embedded in the FedEx logo. And some of us still don't see it, even though I said it's one there. Very, very profound, y'all. See, I can show you better than I can tell you all day. Because it's hidden in what? Plain sight. And that's something that we're all familiar with. Things being hidden in plain sight. See, this is a science, y'all. And we approach life scientifically, meaning as knowers or seekers of knowledge or seekers of light. And then this stuff becomes revealed to us. We have an advantage over a whole lot of people, good brothers. But we have to have the proper orientation. We have to have the proper psychology. We have to have the proper understanding of who and what we are, why we are, when we are, and exactly where we're headed. Y'all see it yet? Let me show. Oh, go back for me, bro. It's right there for those who didn't see it yet. Right there in your face, right? Ain't that a trip? Been right there the whole time. Been right there the entire time. Ever since this logo has been a logo, that arrow has been right there. Now let's talk about why that arrow is right there. Let's talk about why it's there. Because again, it's not happenstance. So the word Fed in FedEx makes you think that it's federal, that it's an official company, like it's backed by the federal government. So it gives a sense of stability, depending on, what you think about. And then the word X is express, right? And that's where the arrow is. It makes you think that it's going to get there expeditiously. It's going, pew. You sent it today, it got there today. Man, I'm looking for a package. Check your pocket. You know what I mean? That type of, like Jimmy John's fast. How fast, sir? FedEx fast. So, yes, sir.
Real quick. first showed it, flashed it, I wasn't really paying attention to the arrow. And then when you mentioned it, I realized I had to focus in on it. And I was like, wait, I know it's there. I've seen it before. Oh, there it is.
Right.
You know, so it's interesting, like, my mind having to focus on the symbol to look for it. But first, I wasn't even paying attention to it.
You have to reorient yourself.
Right.
And it's slick, y'all. Everything is like that. From how the birds are singing in the morning. You've heard birds every morning all your life unless you've ever been somewhere where birds aren't. And there's some places like that, you know, I've never been, but I'm sure there are places where birds don't sing. But once you get understanding that that's a symbolic expression of something, then you hear it differently. You begin to see it differently. Hit that for me. We're talking about psychology and being descendants of the African lodge, right? And so a lot of times people who don't understand the symbolic writings of our ancestors, they look at a symbol like this and they don't understand what it is. Or they go in and they start trying to decipher it using the Rosetta Stone, right? And so the Rosetta Stone gives us a character by character translation, right? Because it had the Medu Neter or the hieroglyphs, and if I'm not mistaken, it had the hieratic text, and then it had Greek on there. And so they said, so this symbol must be an A, this symbol must be a C, this symbol must be a, and so then they go in and they decipher things based on that. But in the earlier slide, we learned that it goes beyond the symbol for symbol translation. And so what you see here is literally neural anatomy. This is a neuroanatomical depiction here, where you have the spinal column known as the Jed pillar. You have Heru that symbolizes consciousness and a certain level of awakeness and awareness. And you have a sun disk on top of his head, which represents light or enlightenment. He has a consciousness that has been raised to a certain level, and it's bordering on the heavens there. If you look at the neuroanatomy that correlates with this, what you also see are inner brain structures, right? You got the corpus callosum, which is that bundle of nerves that communicates from one hemisphere to the next. You've got where the pineal gland is located. You got the thalamus. You got the brain stem. You've got all these aspects of the human brain that correlate with the raising of consciousness. Right there, exactly. The symbol is perspective. To us, there's no question that there's a symbol there. There might be a question about what the symbol means, who put it there, and why, but there is no question about, is there a symbolic meaning behind this? That saves us time when we get on that square. When we stop asking, is it there, and start asking, what's there, why there, who there, we save ourselves a whole lot of argument and debate because we know better, y'all. We know too much to think that there's not a symbolic representation behind everything. I could keep showing and proving. Hit that for me. Just show and prove. We could do this all day. So here is a scarab beetle known as Khepera. Khepera symbolizes the ever becoming, or the Genesis, because that's what Genesis is. It's constant becoming. It's not the beginning. It's constant beginnings, constant becomings. And the scarab beetle, it was used for that. It's used as a symbol for that because when the scarab is rolling around in nature, that's the beautiful thing about our ancestors. We use nature because we understood just like nature is Nature. Our symbols for God was NTR. We understood that God is nature and nature is manifested in representation of God. And so when you see the scarab rolling around, first of all, it goes and collects some cow dung, some type of poop, right? And it rolls it into a perfect sphere, you know, like those globes. It rolls it into that, and it lays eggs inside of it, and then it rolls it backwards towards the east. And then after a certain period of time, it tosses it into some water, and out comes a bunch of little scarab beetles. Ever becoming, self-generating, it seems, right? Using the waters of life. Very profound symbolism. So why would that be the cranium? Why would that be almost an exact replication of the fissures of the skull? It's because this is where we continue to become. This is where our mind and our soul interfaces with the body. This is it's a computer behind this wall, behind this firewall, if you will. This is a tiled lodge. Uh-oh. Yeah? And you got to know that oath to get in there. You got to know how to get if you're late. But and when I was first raised, that was one of the scariest things to me. Like, please don't be late. Please don't be late. that motivated me to get there on time. Because dude got a big sword, man. And I don't want to mess up. But that's what this is, y'all. This is the center of consciousness. This is where we can generate new thoughts, right? Almost seemingly out of thin air, out of the clear blue sky. We come up with all kind of ideas, all kind of concepts. This is part of where the origins are. This is the main switchboard in our vehicles. Hit that for me. Uh-oh. Y'all knew it was coming. So now that we've established that it's not a question of is there a symbol there, but what is the meaning, who put it there, and why? Can I go? Yeah. All right. Because this is one of those things, y'all.
No, stop right there.
Thank you. Okay. My elder has spoken. I'll sit down. I'm not tripping. For some reason, y'all, this daggone $2 bill, it rubs us the wrong way. It gets under our skin for some reason. And when it's something like that, I go deeper. I'm like, okay, let me find out what's really here. Because it's kind of like, when a doctor is trying to see if you got a broken bone, and they touch, and that part that makes you, that's where it is. That's where that fracture is. And that's where we need to try to apply some type of healing or some type of understanding about what the situation is. And so we got this cat sitting right here. Now, what is this a picture of? Somebody tell me what this is a picture of. It's the back of the $2 bill? Good answer. Perfect answer. Okay, so we got, it's a representation of the sign of the Declaration of Independence. Brother Tootie, right on time. And so, really what we got going on here is the presentation of a draft of the Declaration of Independence. This is not the signing. It's a presentation of the draft. And if you go down to the Capitol and the Rotunda, you're going to see a portrait, one of the 3 portraits that this is based off of. And all 3 of the portraits are different. Each one is different. Each one has somebody in it or is missing somebody that might be in another one. All right, so we got that established. And another thing about this image is that there was never a time when all these people was in the room at the same time together. Sometimes, some of the people have been deceased by the time the portraits were created. And so they recreated some of the images based on relatives. All right, I'm just doing all this just to really get to what my point really is. This dude right here with the darkened face, with the white wig, this cat sitting at a table. People at tables are important, right? This guy right here, he's sitting in the seat of somebody named Robert Morris, right? Who was a financier for the Revolutionary War. I mean, he was bankrolling. He had money. And he was a little pudgy white dude. So Robert Morris is white. That ain't Robert Morris. I didn't say it was. But dude got a dark face. And in the portrait, his face ain't dark. There are literally people in the shadows on the portrait. Back here, their faces are under a shadow. So my question is, why? Why is the seat of Robert Morris have a dark-faced man sitting there? And so I went etymology, word origins. Morris, Moorish. Dark face. That's what more, black people. Dude could have been anywhere. But it's that seat that he occupies. So what was that? Why? So what? How what does that mean? Does it mean anything? So then I started looking up what's the relationship between the founding of the United States and Morocco. Morocco was the first nation to acknowledge the U.S. Search up President Obama, speech, Morocco. Hillary Clinton, speech, Morocco. And you're going to see them standing at a podium, who had a U.S. flag and had a Moroccan flag behind them. And they both would tell you about that piece of history. There are very specific treaties that identify this. And because this is the Declaration of Independence, this is that period of time where the United States was forming. Why not have a representation of those who acknowledged you and or those who were here before you? I'll say it again, and or those who were here with an established government before you. So again, I don't ask, is there a symbol there? I don't ask, is there a symbolic meaning? I jump straight in and try to decipher that. And again, no conclusion on this, but very profound when you think about it. I keep $2 bills on me just because of black dude on there. Hit that for me. Symbols, hidden in plain sight. Now, I grabbed this off of social media. Somebody was digging, I don't know if somebody was just high one night, like, hey man, look at all this stuff, look like Masons. All the conspiracy theory stuff. But when you look at it, it tripped me out. I mean, because some of it, you see it. see it like I see it, right? Oh, this one really tripped me out. Yeah? You got that Royal Arch with Gmail. You got the Facebook. You know what? Y'all know what this is. I don't know. I have no idea what that is. Third eye, I don't know. But you see, I'm just dealing here up. This stuff is amazing, right? No, is there a man? I don't know if somebody did it on purpose. I don't know. I can't say that Mark Zuckerberg has any type of affiliation, right? But what I do know is what I see. And it's a daggone coincidence. It's a heck of a coincidence. Go ahead, brother. These are some African symbols. These are very ancient African symbols. They come out of Ghana, and they're created by the Akan, or the Ashanti Kingdom specifically. These are called Adinkra symbols. And again, as symbolists, as descendants of the African Lodge, and I'll speak a little more tomorrow about this, but we would be far more empowered to have symbols that resonate more so with our ancestral culture than we are with the symbolism that we currently use. I'm not saying instead of. I'm not saying in spite of. I'm saying in addition to. In addition to, because nothing prevents us from seeking more light outside the lodge, right? In fact, we're encouraged to do so. And when we tap back in to those things that are embedded in our genetic memory, because that's a real thing, we begin to unlock things in our psychology, in our subconscious mind, that then comes forward and it makes us more empowered as we walk on a day-to-day basis. For example, anybody seen the wrought iron security doors on the houses? Or the fence, the gate outside the house? And y'all notice that heart-shaped symbol that's on there? That is literally the Sankofa symbol. Let me see if it's on here. You see it?
Second column from the left.
But this is Sankofa right here. That is the Sankofa symbol. You saw the bird up there or something?
Yeah.
But this is the one I'm talking about. This is directly embedded into a lot of our security fences and gates outside the homes. You know who the blacksmiths were early on? It was us and them. It was us and them. We were the ones doing the work. We find ways, conscious, intentionally or not, to maintain the legacy. Why are the traffic lights invented by an African descendant red, gold, and green?
Yeah.
Don't have to make it up. Just have to recognize its presence. Constantly seeing red, gold, and green every time you pull up to a light, unless it's blinking. Say it again.
He was a brother in the craft too.
Dig that. Wow, didn't know that. Profound. We are profound people. We are members of a profound organization, and we have yet to realize its depth. We have yet to realize the purpose why each and every one of us has been raised into this craft. We are still on that mission to figure it out. We've got to get our memory back, brothers. We got to recover from that traumatic brain injury, brothers. We fell asleep for about a good 500 years. The story makes it seem like it was a few days while they found our body. 500 years. Them like God days, in the seventh day, that was like thousands of years, Yes, sir, good brother.
May I purchase your handout?
I'm sorry?
May I purchase your handout?
If I had a handout, brother, I would give it to you.
I have an email out.
Are you talking about the presentation? I got you, man. I got you. But y'all feel what I'm saying? I'm standing here humbly and presenting to my brothers of the research arm of Prince Hall Freemasonry. We are the ones that either know or desire to know and are on a mission to find out. This is a deep room right now. Think about that. It's a lot of power right here, right now. It's a lot of history shaking going on right here, right now, because we just getting started as far as I'm concerned. We just getting started. Hit that for me, bro. More symbols. We see them all the time. If you know, we got the different planets. Let me ask y'all this. Who knows that every day of the week is governed by a particular planet? Who's aware of that? All right, so for those of us that are aware of that, how do we find out which planet governs the day? Say Google it. That works too, but let's say that by the name of the day. Now check this out. It get real slick right about now. So the first day of the week is what? The sun's day. The second day of the week is moon day, or lunes if you speak in Spanish. Lunar, lunes. And then we've got Tuesday, which is miércoles. I'm sorry, it's martes. Forgive me. Tuesday is martes in Spanish. Mars. Wednesday is miércoles, which is Mercury, right? Thursday, we're going to get Juenes, J-U, which identifies Jupiter. And then Friday, we got Viernes, right? Venus. And then we got Saturn's Day. And so it's there for a reason that way, right? And when you see these planetary symbols, you have people who study this stuff and know that based on which day of the week you were born, like if you were Ghanaian, I think if your name was Kofi, you were born on a Friday. That identifies that you're governed by the energy of a Friday, right? And it says a lot about your character and your personality. Click for me. These symbols more so than those. Y'all remember back in those of us that was out there in them streets back in the 70s? And you roll up on the little mama and you say, "What's your name is? What's your sign?" Me, I'm a Capricorn. You know what I mean? You find out what her sign is so you can know something about her. And you run into a Taurus or a Scorpio, you're going to have you a good time. In very different ways, though. The Scorpio, you better tread lightly because if you cross her, it's over. You're going to have to get you some new tires, a new paint job. So I've heard. So I've heard. My wife is a Virgo, thank you very much. But again, the symbol represents an encyclopedia worth of information. And it's a psychology that we're dealing with here, right? If you know your zodiac signs, if you know the images, if you know the meaning behind it, if you know the depth of it and how it interacts with various other things, you've got a leg up on. They say that millionaires have advisors, billionaires have astrologers. You ever heard that? Millionaires have advisors, billionaires have astrologers. They align the things that they're doing based on what's going on in the heavens. And again, we got those two globes, right? We got one to tell us to handle this here, and we got that other one that's telling us y'all better look up. But unfortunately, we ain't looking up too much nowadays. Not so much anymore. And then with all the artificial light out there, if we do look up, we're not going to see many stars. Right? And that is a symbolic representation of ourselves. We're looking down. We're so focused on the physical material aspects of ourselves. We keeping it here with the compasses behind that square. We keeping it here. This is us looking down. Even though we've been raised, we're still not looking up too much. This is looking up. This is going from the physical and starting to pay attention to our soul and our spirit. That whisper that comes in, that something told me not to go this way. When you're sitting in 2 hours worth of traffic. Man, boy, something told me to go to the store right now. I'm glad I did because I was needing to talk to you, brother. Man, I was just thinking about you. I picked up my phone about to call you and I saw you had already called me and I missed your call. That's something. Yep, we call it intuition. We call it insight. Some say the origin of it is God. Some say the origin of it is your higher self. That's all a part of our resurrection process, good brothers. When we got raised, that was a part of the raising that we went, that's what we were doing. And so through the raising, I'm getting a little ahead of myself, so I'm going to try to hold out till I get to those images. So let me just pause. I'll get back to the raising and the 3 phases. Who was there when we got woke up? Remember, we all signed our names with HA behind it for this presentation. Who was there when we got woke up? As far as the story is concerned. King Solomon, he was the king of Israel.
Well, to me, I might be way off. But there's a part in the Bible that tells me we were all there. And I say that because when Jesus said to the disciples, "I must leave you, but I will send you a comforter."
That's right.
Who will tell you and teach you all things that you need to know. It's embedded within each and every one of us.
Absolutely is.
You see, But like you say, we've gone to sleep and forgotten it's there.
Yep.
And when it comes to us intuitively, that's when it's speaking to us. And it speaks to us at all times.
At all times.
The thing is, are we listening?
Rarely. Yes, sir. I agree 100% with that. And so we had King Solomon, the king of Israel, was there in the story, in the allegory. It was one of them. Now, first of all, we didn't go to sleep. We got knocked out. We got knocked out. It took it. You know, we was fighter though, so it didn't get us the first time. Kind of stumbled, got again, and then that last one is what did it. Who did it? I implore you to analyze the name, the words that we use to describe who did each one of those. And see what you have. I'll give you a little hint about look at the last letters, the O, the and the So you got masculine, feminine, and neutral. You know, so the O is masculine, the is the feminine ending, and is the neutral ending. Right? And so that's the catalyst. Like, you know, when you have like a ground, when you plug in something, you need positive, negative, and you need something to ground it out. And so when you see those three, just pay attention to that within the context of the entire story, with us being HA. And I promise you'll find something there. And it's really slick. And it's part of the reason why I'm saying that, not in spite of, but we need to put our stuff in addition to this, so that we can restore our memory prior to that death blow. So what we have here is an ineffable name, right?
Right.
It's a tetragrammaton.
Right.
And it's constructed in such a way that it looks like what? It looks like a person standing there. What could that possibly mean? Come on, y'all. Doesn't your book say that ye are gods? That's written in red, ain't it?
Yeah.
No further question. Push for me. Hit the button, brother. Y'all know where this is, right? This is located.
1733 16th Street.
No, this is a little further downtown. Yes, sir. It's in the Tech, in the Washington Monument. And so when you go into there, as you're going towards the elevator, you're going to see an image of George Washington, one of our Masonic brothers, right? And above his head, you see the Herubet head, which is a winged sun disk with the two serpents on either side of it. And it represents, amongst other things, enlightenment, right? A pure African symbol there. There's no question about that being an African symbol. Within a pure African symbol there. And there's something about it, it's like, dang it, everybody know but us. Everybody. I would love to go into a Prince Hall Grand Lodge or a lodge room that's decked out like the Egyptian room at the Grand Lodge in Pennsylvania. Oh my God, I would love it, because what I know is that we would function differently in such a space. If we had Medu Neter all over the place, if we had the Neteru on the walls and ancient African symbolism around us as we cut in those corners, and you know what I mean, it'd be a whole different ballgame. Yes, sir.
You were talking about that. I traveled to a lot of mainstream Grand Lodges and skyscrapers. They have all those symbols, but guess what? They don't have a clue what they mean. I'd rather tell them what they got on their wall. But they don't know about Egyptian symbology and that stuff. Majority of them don't. And they don't know why it's there. And to me, it's like, you said, magic word might be lost, but it always says it's going to be preserved somewhere. Well, it's been preserved, but it hasn't been in our building.
Right.
And we don't get in their building to see them.
And imagine if it was in our building, though. Oh my God, it'd be a different game. I'm telling y'all, because remember what I said earlier. The symbolism, you don't have to be aware that it's a symbol there or even what the symbol means. It impacts you anyway. It's the whole market that I showed y'all with the FedEx logo. It's the reason why UPS uses the color brown that it uses. It's all a psychological effect. Marketing, the entire field of marketing is all about psychologically manipulating people. To do something you don't do, to do something that you do but do it differently, or to do something that you're already doing but do more of it. All of that is behavior modification. It's the root of behaviorist psychology. All of marketing, and it's all done with symbolism. Yes, sir.
Reminds me of that verse. You should be as harmless as dove and wise as serpents.
That's right.
And it's the same verse that dictates the caduceus, which is used for medicine.
Yes, sir.
So that's what it makes me think of.
Yep. And so you bring in that caduceus, which is also an African symbol. And what you have is you got that middle column, that middle pillar, and then you got those other two pillars, right? And so, and you have, and the other two pillars are the serpents, right? Those are the serpents. And what you have one that's positively charged and one that's negatively charged, going across that neutral one until it gets to that top part. I see y'all. It gets to that top part where that sun disk is. It's an orb on the staff, right? And if you notice, check this out. When you look at when the paramedics are coming, the paramedic symbol don't have two, does it? It ain't got but one because somebody in some serious trouble. And one of them gone. They on their way out. We trying to get you somewhere where we can get that other one going again to bring you back to life. That's real. It's always in plain sight, y'all. We are Masons. We got every tool we need to decipher every one of these symbols that's being put in front of us. Every tool we need. Every one of us on our own free will and accord stepped up and said, yes, I would like entry. Yes, I would like the responsibility of possessing these tools. Yes, I would like to learn more how to use these tools for the betterment of myself, my family, my community, and society at large. That's who we are. This is our stuff. Yes, sir, Brother Morgan, then up here.
Okay. No, what I was going to say was that I agree with you that the more exposure that people get to symbols and symbolism, I think it's very possible to see symbols that are there that weren't intended to originally be there, even, especially when you start talking about those marketing logos and whatnot. Because I really found that one with the Apple, the store. Those logos were
right.
Very interesting. That people who, like you said, probably didn't have a Masonic connection, as far as we know, but they still chose certain symbols for a particular reason to communicate a message, which shows you that the language is there. The other thing I was going to say, which I thought was interesting as well, I read a study, I think it was Harvard University in marketing, and what they did was they were trying to get a better understanding of how symbols affect the brain, and what they found was that, believe it or not, this logo right here on the back of my computer,
the Apple
logo, it actually activated the same part of the brain in people in, I guess, really my generation, that the Christian cross would activate in the symbol of most Christians. So it's like there's a religious loyalty to that symbol. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's a similar thing with other kind of technological logos and things of that nature. It was activating the same part of the brain that religious emblems would activate.
And
I thought that was like really fascinating to see that.
That's profound. Yeah. And that's why people would line up the night before to get the new one.
Right.
Right? They were saying paying their tithes to get that new one, right? It's really interesting and really slick. Thanks. It was a hand.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Well, I don't want to take you on a tangent, but I haven't been able to find the consciousness in Africa. I mean, unless we're saying that Samaria was an outpost of Africa, and they were Africans, but I haven't been able to find it in Africa.
The caduceus.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I can show you right here, Baba. If you ever see the picture of Tahuti, which is the ibis, got the bird head, and he's standing there with two staves. You got the blue one around the one, you got the red one around the other one. The serpent's on there. It's right there. Brother Tootie, you want the answer? Come on.
Now, what I was going to add or bring up the same symbol you just showed with the staff with the disc on top and the caduceus running around it has been explained as the spinal cord with the medulla oblongata at the back of the brain at the top, and the transverse nerves that goes down that controls this body. That is also a symbol of how the body actually works. The brain operating the rest of the temple where the spirit resides.
And to take that a step further, you can also see it in the old Vedic or in the Hindu spirituality. They got I know one of it's Pingala. They got the Ida, I think it's Ida and Pingala, which is the positive and negative aspects of that serpent power rising from the base of the spine up to the crown of the head for enlightenment purposes. And so you find it consistently through cultures around the world, but you find it in ancient Kemet, Africa, with Tahuti. He's got that staff. Yeah, so if you look it up with Tahuti or Jehudi, or sometimes they call him Thoth, you will see it. He has sometimes his are separate though. He's got the individual staffs, one serpent on each one. Yeah. And there was a hand here. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I'll come back to you, Baba. Yes, sir.
I went to the Great Pyramid in Egypt.
Nice.
I saw a lot of symbols on the side of the walls going up the steps. And I was told there were a lot of Masonic symbols up there, but I didn't know what I was looking at.
I haven't been fortunate enough to go yet, and I'm planning to take my son for his 13th birthday this summer, and I'm gonna be wide open when I do. But some people, so there's a lot of argument about whether or not those are Masonic symbols that you find there, or those symbols that were adopted by Masons in the development of the craft. And what I say is that Masons are builders. So you can't tell me that they weren't Masons. Now, were they a part of the Freemason craft as we know it today? Probably not. Were they keepers of the same wisdom that we're supposed to be keepers of today? I would say probably so. And so, you know, a rose by any other name is still a rose. And so if we're talking about our lodges, our physical body lodge, as well as the body lodge, as keepers of that sacred wisdom, you know, as far as I'm concerned, I'm carrying on that same tradition. Was it you, brother? And then Brother Tahuti and Brother Honeywell.
Brother David, this is a quick question. As a medical professional, thinking about the conducive, one of the things that comes to my mind is the helical structure of DNA. I don't know
Yes.
if there's any thought behind that, but that's again what it reminds me of.
There's a book called, what is it called? Cosmic Serpent. And Cosmic Serpent is an exploration of whenever serpents appear in mythology. You know, from the Garden of Eden, you know, all the way up to wherever else you find it. It's not, the serpent is really never portrayed as being something evil or wicked. It's always portrayed as being something wise or something knowledgeable. And when you look at the DNA, the double helix, he says that is the serpent that's being spoken about, which is the same as the serpents that wind the staff. Okay, so we're talking multi-layered symbolism now. And so serpent as symbol of life force, energy, wisdom, knowledge, compared to DNA, some say that that's exactly how George Washington Carver was able to talk to plants. Because his DNA was communicating with the DNA of the plants. And so then when we're talking about the Kabbalah or the tree of life, and we talk about the crown or Kether at the very top there, you know, we look at, you know, those of us in the consistory, that very top one, Kether, the crown. Now, when you look at what that actually is, that's omnipresence, right? And then you look at the other two, you look at, I'll keep mixing up with the Kemetic terms. You look at Binah and you look at Chakma. Those are top three. That's omniscience, it's omnipresence, omniscience, and all-powerful, omnipotent. Now, if you think of what would make something all-knowing, all-powerful, and everywhere at the same time, it's because of the DNA structure. The subatomic particles, which some would say are the portals or the gateway for the spirit to enter into flesh, right? And so the Cosmic Serpent book explores specifically in South America amongst the shaman there, and they drink this brew called ayahuasca. And they said, well, how did you know that this plant would create a spiritual and altered conscious experience? And they say the DNA told us. The serpent in that plant told us. Now, if you take this plant by itself, the digestive enzymes in your stomach will destroy that which will give you that experience. So how did y'all know to take that plant from over there and broil it at the same time to neutralize that enzyme so that you can get the effect of this plant? It's the DNA the serpent in that plant told us. Cosmic Serpent. So I tell my students that a lot of times, y'all, we're told that reality is what's on this screen and that's it. And if we only look at this screen, look at everything else we're forsaken. And to me, that's how we often do it. We see this is it. Within these boundaries, that's reality. And we're forgetting the rest of this hotel and the rest of the entire world for this screen. Brother Honeywell and Brother Tahuti.
I guess when I see symbols like that, the first thing that comes to my mind is duality. And we are programmed, I think, through Western society to believe that order and chaos, good and bad, are two separate things, when in fact they're just on separate ends of the spectrum. It's the same thing.
Yep.
And they talk about that, thought talks about that in the law of polarity. So I think that we have to begin to reprogram ourselves in terms of how we see things. That's the first thing I thought about with duality.
Yep. That's absolutely it. The way I say it is that you've never seen a one-sided coin. Ever. Because they don't exist. There's never a day without a night. Even when you're up at the North and South Pole, the day is just long as heck. It might be months long. But guess what? That night that's coming, it's gonna balance it right on out. It's gonna be the same length of night. You've always got the duality. You always got the polarities. You always got the complementary, not opposites. You always got the complementary aspect of the game. And that's your left and your right brain as well. And so with that understanding, as you're saying, Brother Honeywell, with that understanding, then we also understand that nothing really has a property in and of itself. It's usually how it relates to other things. For example, fire is great when it's cooking your food and warming you up. But if you catch your curl on fire, you're in trouble. Ask Michael Jackson, right? It's how it relates, right? It's all about how it relates. Water is great when it's quenching your thirst, but when it's in the form of tsunami, it's bad all of a sudden, right? So it's always relative, and that's another statement of thought. That's another principle of how polarity and how complementary works. It's how it's relating to whatever it's relating to in that moment. When you function like that, that's a higher level of morality. That means that whatever, in this moment, I'm going to do what's necessary in this moment. You become a dangerous person because you don't have these ideas of good, bad. You have, I'm standing on truth, and I perceive reality correctly, and I'm going to function accordingly. That's breaking certain shackles. Brother Tahuti. I thought you was about to salute the way you stood up.
In the 2017 Lux and Tempest editions, my article on Hermes Trismegistus.
Nice.
Again, a lot of this knowledge is hidden. It comes down to us in Masonry from Hermes. All right, and what I tried to show is Hermes is an attempt by Europeans to take the thunder away from the ancient brothers who created this information. Now, if you would go on Google Hermes Trismegistus, you'll get an old white man with a hat.
Right.
And a staff of thought.
Looking like he Harry Potter or something, yeah.
And in the trap, if you look up Hermetic Mason, and again, just look up Hermetic Mason, like from Hermes. If you look up Hermes in Mackey Encyclopedia, you look up Hermes in Coyle's Encyclopedia. If you look to find out who Hermes was, even in Anderson when he wrote the Constitution, they all say it's from Hermes that masonry comes down from the ancient world into the craft. But they're not actually talking about Hermes, they're talking about ancient Tahuti.
There you go.
And all the information you just gave about who this character is or was within the African context of philosophy. So it's in the craft, but it's hidden under a European name. It's like they took an ancient black concept and dressed it in European clothes,
right,
and then brought it back to us. And if we don't really do in-depth research, we never know that we're really looking at principles and concepts that come out of the philosophies of an ancient Nile Valley people. See, and look at it as having come out of Rome, because Hermes, or out of Greece.
Yeah.
Because Hermes Trismegistus is a Greek term applied to an ancient African concept. It's that. So everything you're saying, actually when you study the craft and where it comes from, you find out it actually does come from black people.
Yep.
Like when it's masked under the name of a Greek.
Yes, sir.
And sometimes you'll miss that.
Yep. Thank you, Bob. And again, that death blow. We got to wake up and remember who we were before we was knocked out. That's it. Plain sight right there. Right there. Matter of fact, the movie The Gods of Egypt. Anybody seen that? Yes. Who was the only black god of Egypt in that movie? It was Thoth, which is Tahuti. He was the wisest one. If you listen to what he says, I've been here since the beginning. He was the keeper of all the records, right? Remember, he actually duplicated himself. There's a whole bunch of him in that library. Putting in work, right? Cataloging plants, cataloging animals. He was the only African god of Egypt left. All the rest of them were those Greek and Roman invaders. They had usurped the black gods and put themselves in place. Even Ra and his bark sailing in the sky was an old white dude. Knock you out, give you a hand up, and recreate you in their image. Yes, sir. I'm going to wrap up in a minute.
Go back to your FedEx.
Yes.
I've always told folks that we as the people in this program think a certain way. And when you flash that FedEx sign up there, most people in the program see FedEx and not the error.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to unchain our mind from this mental, I call it mental slavery. Because we've been programmed to think a certain way, to see a certain way, and until we get to the point where we can open our minds up and see what's really there and ask the questions you're talking about now. Because, boy, you're on the right track. Because you're seeing what too many of us don't see. And I just don't know how do we get the majority of us to see what right now only, what, 5% see?
Some say that it won't be much more than that. What we need is a critical mass. We just need a critical mass. Enough of us that unapologetically ask the question and pursue the answer with all truth. Drop the biases, you know what I'm saying? Drop the limitations. That quote by R.A. Schwaller de Lubix, it says, understand that we have greatness beyond these boundaries. We have unlimited potential. And when you start from there, and see, this is another trick, and go advance that for me so I can know we're going to keep pushing. Click the slide for me. Part of the thing with the whole theory of evolution piece. Check this out, real slick, y'all. So the theory of evolution says that we have a common ancestors with apes, and then somewhere we split. And humans began to evolve out of that until we are what we are today. Now check this out, it's real slick. And then they come around and say, oh yeah, the first humans were in Africa. So then what does that mean is that Africans are closest to apes. And that whites who came later are the more evolved aspect of human beings. It's always tricky like that. That's real slick and tricky. That's why I want to buy evolution, because that orients you a certain way. So what I say is that we're descendants of God. So now what that does is it sets our potential God level, and that we have fallen a long ways from that, but guess what? It's still in us.